Good afternoon, everyone. This meeting is called to order. Mr. Trobman, has anyone signed up for public comment? Thank you very much. Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Ms. Miller. Okay, no cases to reconsider under agenda item 3.
Correct, no cases.
And we'll take a look at tax liability cases under agenda item 4. I think we have 2 tax cases on docket 11, none on docket 12.
Good afternoon. For the record, Hugh Daniel, Special Program Appeals. Yes, you are correct, Chairman. There are 2 tax liability cases on docket 11 and no tax liability cases on docket 12. For docket 11, the first case number is TD-23-037-1223. Commissioner Esparza.
I agree with staff recommendations, that the board directors, including the board officers, are not in employment.
Commissioner Trevino
I agree with staff's recommendation.
and Chairman Daniel.
Agree with staff recommendation.
The second case is TD-23-038-1223. Commissioner Esparza.
Agree with staff recommendation that the drivers are in employment.
Commissioner Trevino,
I agree with staff's recommendation.
Chairman Daniel.
I'd like to rehear the case for an analysis of whether any of the characteristics weighing in favor of employment are actually statutory or regulatory requirements.
I'll support it. Support the chairman.
We have 2 votes for a rehear, and it will be resubmitted at a later docket. That concludes the tax liability cases for this docket.
All right, no fair housing cases,
Correct, no cases.
no child labor cases.
Yes, sir, no cases.
All right, on agenda item 7, we have no wage claim cases on dockets 11 or 12 pulled for additional discussion.
That's correct. None pulled for additional discussion, but you should have received the wage claim short form dissent list for dockets 11 and 12.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining wage claim cases on dockets 11 and 12.
I second the motion, except for those cases on which I am dissenting, as reflected on wage claim short form dissent list for docket 11 and 12.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I am dissenting, as reflected in wage claim short form dissent lists for dockets 11 and 12.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted. Let's move now to agenda item 8, consideration of unemployment insurance cases. Please proceed when you are ready.
Case number 3254660, Commissioner Esparza.
The AT decision is not supportable. The employer's original late appeal clearly alleged non-receipt of the late protest determination. That appeal indicated that the employer never received the late protest determination because the business was closed during the pandemic. In an essentially identical case on docket 17 of 2023, in appeal number 3253923, the commission ruled that the employer's appeal was timely due to non-receipt of the determination during a COVID-related business closure. The employer's witness during the hearing in case number 3253923 was the same person who was at the original hearing in this case, but at the remanded hearing held several months later. A different witness was unable to give any useful facts. Both cases are part of a group of many substantial identical cases from the same employer, all arising from the late protest determinations based on non-receipt of the chargeback notices. The result in this case should be the same as in the related cases from 2023. Accordingly, we should reverse the AT decision. The employer filed a timely appeal, resubmit the case on the merits of the late protest and chargeback issues.
The AT decision is correct. The charge liability decision was mailed to the employer's correct address on 11/9 of 21. The deadline for filing the appeal was 11/23 of 21, and the employer did not file the appeal until 6 months later. The employer has not established any exceptions to the timeliness rules. Affirm the AT, late employer appeal, late response to notice of maximum potential chargeback, charges the employer's account.
Late employer appeal, late response to the NMPC chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3261375, Commissioner Esparza.
The AT decision is not supportable. The case is basically identical to cases 3260456 and 3260470 on docket 6. In those cases and this one, the original notice of maximum potential chargeback was mailed to the employer during the pandemic, time when many restaurants, including the employers, were still shut down, and TWC and postal systems continued to be overwhelmed. The employer's late response to the NMPC, its failure to appear at the first hearing, and its late request to reopen the first hearing were all attributable to COVID-related mail issues, the lingering effects of pandemic shutdowns, and the inconsistent and misleading messaging that it was receiving from TWC at the time concerning the need to respond, to appeal, or to participate in a hearing. On the merits of the chargeback issue, the information is inconsistent regarding base period wages, the date of last work, and the reason for the work separation. Accordingly, we should reverse the AT decision. The employer had good cause to miss the second hearing. The employer filed a timely request to reopen the first hearing. The employer filed a timely response to the NMPC and remand on the issues of base period wages and chargeback.
The AT decision is supportable. Regarding the employer's failure to appear at AT2 hearing, the employer admitted that they failed to regularly check their mail. The employer failed to provide persuasive testimony to overcome the presumption of receipt. Based on these facts, the employer has failed to establish that they were prevented from participating in the hearings due to circumstances beyond their control. The employer also failed to file a timely petition to reopen from AT1, and the commission does not have jurisdiction to address the underlying merits. Affirm the AT. Employer did not have good cause for missing AT2. Late employer petition to reopen. Late response to notice of maximum potential chargeback. Employer's account remains charged.
Employer did not establish good cause for AT2, untimely employer petition to reopen, late response to the NMPC.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3377629, Commissioner Esparza.
We should reverse the appeal tribunal decision concerning the AT2. The employer contacted the AT representative prior to the date of the scheduled hearing to advise of an unavoidable travel need. Since the employer's firsthand witness was prevented from attending the AT2 hearing due to a travel conflict, the employer established good cause. Concerning AT1, the employer provided credible and consistent testimony that they were unable to participate due to receiving the AT1 hearing packet after the date of the scheduled hearing. As such, we should find that the employer established good cause for missing the AT2 and AT1 hearings and resubmit the case for merits of testimony.
The AT decision is correct. The employer missed the AT2 hearing. The owner vaguely indicated that she missed the hearing due to an unavoidable travel plans. However, the owner did not state that she was the only person who could represent the employer in this case, did not clarify how her travel plans were unavoidable, and did not explain how travel plans prevented her from attending the scheduled hearing. Therefore, the employer did not show good cause for reopening the hearing. Regarding the work separation, the claimant's testimony from AT1 established that the employer discharged the claimant for missing work on 8/8/22, despite the claimant having obtained permission to have that day off from work. Therefore, the claimant was not discharged for misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT. Employer did not have good cause for AT2. Employer did not have good cause for AT1. No misconduct, chargeback.
Employer established good cause for AT2 and AT1, resubmit.
We will resubmit this case.
Case number 3510615, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision is not correct. The claimant was discharged without warning for falling behind in the performance of her duties. The claimant had requested assistance from the employer, which was not provided to her. Additionally, the claimant provided evidence that she was reinstated to her former position approximately 6 weeks after her separation as a result of the employer's grievance process. Since the claimant had been warned that her performance issues could lead to termination, or had not been warned that her performance issues could lead to termination, and since the claimant was later reinstated to her former position, the employer has failed to establish that the claimant was discharged for misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, taxed governmental employer.
The AT decision should be affirmed. First, the claimant's reinstatement with the employer has no bearings on the premises since the commission is not bound by the findings of the claimant's grievances. Regarding the job separation, claimant's fact-finding statement reads that she had skipped some applicants that were going through the application process for housing. Moreover, the claimant admitted to skipping over the applicant to assist another applicant that was related to a coworker. The employer provided a fact-finding statement that reveals the waitlist process was paramount and that even one violation without valid justification is grounds for immediate termination. Accordingly, the claimant's action constituted work-connected misconduct. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, misconduct, taxed governmental employer.
No misconduct, taxed governmental employer.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3539968, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision is not supportable. The employer discharged the claimant for issues with his job performance. The claimant was only employed for 7 months and never consistently met the employer's performance expectations. The claimant's inability to meet the employer's performance expectations during his short tenure with the employer is not misconduct connected with the work. Therefore, we should reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback, void adequate response.
We should modify the AT decision. The claimant was terminated when he routinely submitted inaccurate and incorrect labor sheets, which resulted in thousands of dollars in lost revenue to the employer. Although the claimant had demonstrated the ability to perform work tasks to the employer's satisfaction, his performance waned despite receiving multiple warnings and repeated training opportunities for growth. Since the claimant had previously met the employer's standards, but thereafter demonstrated carelessness in the completion of his duties, the claimant's actions constituted misconduct. As such, we should modify the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, sever adequate employer response.
Misconduct, no chargeback, sever adequate employer response.
Short form dissent, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3577495, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision is not correct. The claimant was discharged for falsification of records because the claimant's call logs did not match the record of calls in the employer's system. However, the claimant provided credible firsthand testimony that she made all the calls that she documented in her logs, and that she informed her supervisor that the system was not recording the calls properly. The employer provided no firsthand testimony to refute the claimant's allegations about the system issues. Therefore, the employer has failed to provide sufficient evidence to establish that the claimant was discharged for misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct.
We should affirm the AT decision as misconduct. The employer presented documentary evidence from its phone system showing that the claimant had not made all the calls she logged. The employer further testified that there was no evidence of any issues with the phone system on the days that the claimant allegedly made the calls in question. In addition, the claimant admitted that she had used her personal cell phone to make some of the calls in violation of the employer's policy. Best case scenario, the claimant violated the employer's policy. Worst case, she intentionally misrepresented the calls she made as falsified records. Under either scenario, the claimant mismanaged her position of employment. Again, we should affirm the AT decision, misconduct.
Misconduct.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3580970, Commissioner Esparza.
We should modify the AT decision. First, I agree the claim was valid. As to the job separation, after years of satisfactory work performance, the claimant exhibited a decline in his work and began having issues with call avoidance approximately 7 months before his discharge. Despite multiple warnings, the issues continued. Because the claimant had previously demonstrated a capacity to meet the employer's expectations, his subsequent failure to comply with the employer's standards regarding unapproved auxiliary time constituted misconduct connected with the work. We should modify the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, valid claim, adequate employer response.
The AT decision should be modified. The claimant was discharged for their inability to meet the employer's performance expectations. The claimant was assigned a new job task and duties approximately 3 months prior to his separation and performed his job to the best of his ability. The employer established unreasonable expectations for these new job duties, and the claimant was unable to consistently perform and meet the employer's expectations. Therefore, the claimant's actions are not misconduct connected with the work. Modify the AT, valid claim, no misconduct, chargeback, void adequate response.
Valid claim. No misconduct, chargeback, void adequate employer response.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3583614, Commissioner Trevino.
The decision is not supportable. The evidence established that the employer discharged the claimant after his ex-girlfriend showed up at their business when the claimant was not there and caused a commotion. This was an isolated incident, which the claimant had no real way of controlling, and the claimant did not have any prior warnings for any such issues. The employer just no longer wished to have the claimant at the store after this incident. Therefore, it was not established that the claimant either caused or engaged in any misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct.
We should affirm the AT decision. The claimant's girlfriend created a disturbance at the employer's place of business. Since the claimant was unable to manage his personal life in such a way as to not interfere with his work, the claimant mismanaged his position of employment. We should affirm the AT decision as misconduct.
No misconduct.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir. And that was the last pulled unemployment insurance case for docket 11. You should have received the UI short form dissent list for docket 11.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 11.
I second the motion, except for those cases in which I am dissenting, as reflected on UI short form dissent list for docket 11.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I am dissenting, as reflected in UI short form dissent list for docket 11.
Motion carries with the exceptions noted.
Thank you. Proceeding to docket 12.
Case number 3548637, Commissioner Esparza.
We should reverse the appeal tribunal's decision. The claimant was discharged for physically blocking a coworker's exit and sending her an unwelcome text message. The final incident consisted of the claimant texting, "Don't ignore me," after work hours in all caps, with each letter sent as a separate text message. After the claimant's prior behavior, this message was clearly intimidating. Claimant admitted to the employer that he blocked the coworker's exit and invaded her personal space. He further admitted at the hearings that he sent the text messages. Because the claimant's act violated the employer's anti-harassment and respectful workplace policy, we should reverse the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The AT decision is correct. The employer discharged the claimant for allegedly engaging in inappropriate behavior with another coworker. The claimant denied under oath that the employer's allegations against him, and the employer did not provide any firsthand testimony about the claimant's behavior. Therefore, the employer failed to meet its burden of proof in establishing that the claimant's actions were misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Voluntary leaving, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
I can support the chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Short form dissent, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3549840, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision is correct. The employer discharged the claimant for not meeting the performance standards. The final incident occurred 50 days prior to the employer discharging the claimant. The employer did not discharge the claimant until nearly 2 months after this final incident because they wanted time to train other staff on the claimant's job duties before eliminating his position. Therefore, the employer keeping the claimant on an extra 50 days showed that the discharge was both at the employer's convenience and too remote in time from the final incident to support the finding of misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
We should reverse the AT decision. Although the claimant received prior warnings for deficiencies in work performance, the claimant was terminated when he did not obtain supervisory approval before initiating a payment for an invoice. Since the claimant was aware of the employer's instructions for payment of client invoices, the claimant's refusal to adhere to the employer's directive was mismanagement of his position of employment. Concerning the delay in time between the final incident and discharge, due to the claimant's sensitive position, the delay resulted from the employer's reasonable pre-termination procedures to ensure protection of the company assets and security of borrower information. Thus, the termination was not too remote in time. As such, we should reverse the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
Misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3568562, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision is not correct. The employer discharged the claimant due to job performance issues and his inability to meet the employer's expectations during his short period of employment. The claimant performed his job task to the best of his abilities, and the employer failed to establish that the claimant was ever able to meet their performance expectations. Therefore, the claimant was discharged due to his inability to perform the job to the employer's satisfaction, which does not constitute misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, void the chargeback ruling.
We should modify the AT decision. The claimant was discharged for repeated instances of call avoidance and misusing company time. Although the claimant was aware of the employer's time card and pay policy, was trained on the employer's code of conduct, and had received prior warnings, the claimant continued to mismanage company time. Since the claimant was aware of the employer's policy, but thereafter engaged in practices which involved call avoidance and mismanagement of work hours, the claimant's actions rose to misconduct. As such, we should modify the AT decision, misconduct, set aside the chargeback ruling.
Misconduct, set aside chargeback ruling.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3570214, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision is not correct. The claimant was a delivery driver and was discharged for failing to complete his routes in a timely manner. The employer did not provide any evidence as to what days the claimant's routes were delayed and did not establish that the claimant's own actions or inactions, rather than outside factors, led to the failure to complete his routes in a timely manner. Additionally, the claimant had not been warned by the employer and was not aware that his job was in jeopardy. Therefore, the employer has failed to establish that the claimant was discharged for misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback, void adequate response.
We should modify the AT decision. The claimant was separated when he did not complete his package delivery routes in a timely fashion. Although the claimant was aware of the repercussions associated with non-delivery of the packages, the claimant continued to show performance deficiencies, which ultimately led to his job separation. Since the claimant had previously met the employer's expectations for package delivery, but thereafter displayed substandard performance in the months leading to his termination, the claimant mismanaged his position of employment. As such, we should modify the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, sever adequate employer response.
Misconduct, no chargeback, sever adequate response.
Short form dissent, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3570527, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision is correct. The claimant was discharged for failing to come to work due to snow and ice on the roads. The employer's requirement that the claimant come to work in a severe snowstorm was an unreasonable request, and the claimant's refusal to report to work due to the extreme weather conditions did not constitute misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
The AT decision should be reversed. The employer's policy clearly clearly stated that the refusal to come into work during inclement weather would be grounds for immediate termination. The employer provided context for its policy, which established that it was reasonable. Moreover, the claimant admitted that it refused the employer's offer to pick him up for work. Accordingly, the claimant was discharged for work-connected misconduct. We should therefore reverse the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response. In the alternative, could also agree to qualify the claimant for benefits and protect the employer's account from charge due to the urgent, compelling, and necessary circumstances that were connected to the job separation. Therefore, modify the AT decision, no misconduct, no chargeback. The job separation was urgent, compelling, and necessary.
Misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
Short form dissent, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3576895, Commissioner Esparza.
The AT decision should be modified. I don't contest the validity of the claimed issues. As to the job separation, the claimant was fired for an incident involving a coworker and a sports drink. The drink was handed to the claimant with the instructions that it be left for a coworker. Nonetheless, the claimant proceeded to consume the drink. When the coworker approached the claimant to retrieve the drink, the claimant stated that she had bought the drink at the store, which claimant admitted was a lie. This was a critical moment in the final incident. Metaphorically speaking, the claimant lit the fuse in what would become an escalated incident that resulted in the claimant's termination. The employer stated that the claimant had received numerous verbal warnings. Moreover, the claimant signed the store policy's acknowledgement page, which notified her that violations of any policy could lead to possible termination. Therefore, the claimant's action constituted work-connected misconduct. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision, valid claim, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The AT decision is supportable. The claimant filed a valid claim. As for the separation, the claimant was discharged based on allegations that she acted inappropriately. The claimant provided credible and consistent firsthand testimony denying the allegations against her, and the employer only presented secondhand hearsay evidence regarding the allegations of improper conduct. As such, the employer has not met its burden of showing that the claimant was discharged for misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, valid claim, no misconduct, chargeback.
Valid claim, no misconduct, chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3582356, Commissioner Esparza.
We should reverse the AT decision. Although the claimant was offered numerous opportunities for further work at the end of her job assignment, the claimant refused to accept the work and therefore filed her claim for benefits. And thereafter filed her claim for benefits. As such, the claimant initiated job separation, and this case should be analyzed under section 207-045 of the Act. Since the claimant refused to return to work due to personal reasons, when continued work was in fact available, the claimant's separation was voluntary without work-connected good cause. As such, we should reverse the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The AT decision is correct. The claimant was released from her last temporary assignment on 12/22/22. The claimant immediately reported to the employer that she was available for further assignments. However, the employer did not offer the claimant any further assignments until at least over 3 weeks later, due to the employer's own clearance process. As such, the claimant was involuntarily separated due to lack of work when her last assignment ended, and she was not offered any further work for the next several weeks. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
No misconduct, chargeback, memo to investigate availability.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir. And we will send the memo.
Case number 3591423, Commissioner Esparza.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant, an investigator for the district attorney's office, was discharged after his arrest for DWI. The claimant was initially pulled over for speeding and then arrested. Even if his blood test results indicated a level below the legal limit, as he alleged, the claimant did not deny drinking while driving. Furthermore, an alcohol concentration above the legal limit is not required to prove intoxication. Whether the claimant is ultimately found guilty of the offense is irrelevant. Claimant's own action resulted in his traffic stop, subsequent arrest, and a violation of policy. Thus, because the claimant failed to handle his personal life in such a way as to not interfere with his work, he mismanaged his position of employment. We should affirm the AT decision, misconduct, reimbursing employer not billed. In the alternative, my fellow commissioners have doubts, we can grant a rehearing for submission and review the employer's policy which prohibits arrests.
The AT decision is not correct. The claimant was discharged due to an arrest based on charges that the claimant has denied. The claimant has not been found guilty of any crime, and there is no evidence presented of any such or of any other actions or inactions by the claimant that led to the termination. Therefore, the claimant cannot be determined to have been discharged for misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, bill reimbursing employer.
Rehear.
We will rehear the case.
Case number 3595388, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision is not correct. The claimant did not initiate the job separation. Upon receiving a warning following an absence, the claimant expressed dissatisfaction with the employer's PTO policies. The employer testified that it accepted this as a resignation and prepared a separation notice, which stated that the claimant was being terminated. Though the notice also included a checkbox that indicated the separation was voluntary, the claimant reasonably believed that she was being terminated by the employer when she was presented with the separation notice stating that she was terminated. The employer took actions to sever the employment relationship by presenting the separation notice and therefore initiated the job separation. The employer failed to establish that the claimant's expressions of dissatisfaction with the policy were insubordinate or in any other way constituted misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
We should affirm the AT decision. The claimant told the employer multiple times and in various ways that she believed the job was unsuitable and that the job was not for her. This gave the employer a reasonable impression that the claimant was quitting. Since the claimant resigned over dissatisfaction with PTO policies and did not discuss her concerns with the CEO prior to quitting, she did not provide the employer an opportunity to remedy her concerns. Thus, the claimant quit without good cause connecting with the work. We should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3597496, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision is not supportable. The employer characterized this assignment as a temporary assignment, but the claimant's only assignment while working for the employer was working as a data entry clerk for almost 2 years. Section 201.011, 20 and 21 of the Act describe a temporary employee of a temporary help firm as an employee who works for the client to support or supplement the client's workforce during employee absences, temporary skill shortages, seasonal workloads, or special assignments and projects. The claimant's nearly 2-year-long job clearly meets none of these conditions. Since the claimant was not a temporary worker, the reporting requirements under section 207.045H of the Act do not apply. And the claimant's separation was therefore involuntary and for reasons other than misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback, void adequate response.
We should grant a rehearing in this case. The record was not adequately developed for us to render our decision. It's not clear whether the employer's policy complied with the requirements of section 207.045H. Nor did the record establish whether the claimant was notified of the requirement to report back at the end of the assignment. As such, we should rehear this case for submission and review of the employer's reporting policy and to further develop the record on the claimant's receipt of the policy.
Rehear.
We will rehear the case. And that was the last unemployment insurance case pulled for additional discussion on docket 12. You should have received the UI short form dissent list for docket 12.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 12.
I second the motion, except for those cases in which I am dissenting as reflected on the UI short form dissent list for docket 12.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I am dissenting, as reflected in the UI short form dissent list for docket 12.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take a short recess. All right, this agenda item 9, proposed rule reviews for Florida Tech Chapter 800, Chapter 802, and Chapter 811.
Good afternoon, Chairman Daniel, Commissioner Trevino, and Commissioner Esparza, Mr. Cerna. For the record, I'm Reed O'Brien with the Office of General Counsel. Texas Government Code, Section 2001.039 requires state agencies to review their rules every 4 years, to consider each rule for readoption, revision, or repeal, and to determine whether the reasons for adopting the rules continues to exist. Additionally, staff's assessment includes determining whether the rules are obsolete, whether they reflect the current legal and policy considerations, and whether they reflect the Commission's current procedures. Commissioners, before you today for your consideration for approval are notices of TWC's intent to review its rules in the following 3 chapters of the Texas Administrative Code. Chapter 800, General Administration, Chapter 802, Integrity of the Texas Workforce System, and Chapter 811, Choices. Staff recommends submitting the notices of intent to review the rules for publication in the Texas Register for a 30-day public comment period. And after the comment period ends, staff will present the results of the rule review assessments. And this concludes my presentation, and I'm glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Any comments or questions?
None here.
No questions.
Sir, motion.
Chairman, I move we approve the proposed rule reviews for 40 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 800, General Administration, Chapter 802, Integrity of the Texas Workforce System, and Chapter 11, Choices, for publication for public comment as recommended today by staff.
A second.
It's been moved to second, motion carries. So agenda item 10, mid-year review of local workforce development board child care allocations and targets for board contract year 2024.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. I'm Reagan Miller with the Child Care and Early Learning Division. This afternoon, we're bringing forward the mid-year review of BCY 24 child care targets and allocations. This mid-year review provides an opportunity for us to recheck the case mix and cost factors that we use to determine the affordable number of kids that our boards can serve. We looked at a couple of things specifically. As we implement the new requirements for all child care services providers to become Texas Rising Star certified, the average cost of child care will increase as these providers begin to qualify for the enhanced reimbursement rates. We also examined the policy change that will go into effect with the new child care case management system that launches on July 1st. This change will result in child care providers being paid the reimbursement rate of the workforce area that they are located in, rather than the workforce area that the child is located in. That aligns with how our market rate survey determines those reimbursement costs. Based on our review, there are 21 boards whose average cost has increased, and we are recommending the distribution of $20,986,281 to allow them to meet their initially approved targets. The remaining 7 boards can afford to serve a total of 327 additional average kids per day, and we are recommending adjustments to their targets. All of these details are laid out on attachment 1 of the discussion paper. We're also recommending that you authorize staff to conduct a year-end reconciliation to ensure that boards' average costs did not increase to a point that made their BCY 24 target unaffordable, and distribute funding to boards whose average cost increases would mean that they wouldn't have a sufficient amount of funding to meet their contracted approved target. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any comments or questions?
None here.
No questions.
Is there a motion?
Chairman, I move we approve an additional board contract year 2024 child care allocation distribution of $20,986,281 to 21 boards, increase certain boards' performance targets, and authorize staff to conduct a year-end reconciliation as described in the discussion paper and presented today by staff.
A second.
It's been moved to second, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, no legislative report today. Is there an executive director's report?
Yes, sir. One, excuse me, one quick item. Just want to let the commissioners know that we received notice of a DOL grant opportunity to help support individuals who are re-entering the workforce coming out of the justice system. This is different than the previous grant, the PROUD grant, in that this is focused on state and county facilities and not federal facilities. Potential grant award is between 1 and 4 million. And the services provided are to assist individuals in job search and job acquisition. So we'll work with local boards to determine how many of those boards want to participate, and then we'll submit a grant. So I just want to give you a heads up that we'll continue to work towards that. This fits with our instruction from the commission that that's a focus area for us. So that's all I have to report, Mr. Chairman.
And I have a request. So I understand there will be an annual meeting later this year. In years past, we've presented awards that were cash awards. I'm interested in taking a look at rethinking awards, maybe to do a better job of incentivizing innovative activities that boards are doing. Can you please ask staff to bring forward a discussion paper to establish an innovation fund boards could use to apply for to get money to do innovative things that might not be otherwise contained in the contract that would benefit workforce in Texas, and to do this in lieu of the monetary awards?
Yes, sir. We'll do that. We'll
Thank
get right
you.
on that.
Is there any other order of business to come before the commission?
No, sir.
None here.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved second to adjourn, and we're adjourned.